Oracle. What should they call her? What should they call her? Oracle. Hey, my loves. How is everybody? I'm going to give you guys a second. How are we doing today? What's good, Tola Mezclada? I actually came to hang out with y'all and talk about some things that Spirit's been whispering in my ear about. And what Spirit has been confirming for me. What's good, Project Execute? And so the setting may be different, but I feel an Ohio porch conversation coming on. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have us a chat. I'm going to put some glasses on so I can see better. What's good, Miss Lotus Wisdom? So if you've been watching me for a while, if you really fuck with me, you know that we've been talking about some things for quite a bit. What's good, Rose? Yes, don't forget to like. This isn't on TikTok, okay? I was gonna put it on TikTok, and the Spirit was like, no, this is gonna be just on YouTube. So this is talking to the originals. Okay? While I'm here, I'm going to be blessing some of the supplies that have already arrived for the Lionsgate. So don't mind me while we chat. But we have been talking about certain things for quite a long time. And before we even talk about what Spirit wants to talk about today, we're going to have to go down memory lane a little bit. A while back, about a year ago, we had been talking about things in the sky. And as people were reporting that they were seeing things in their yards, this was all over the country, but specifically in certain regions heavier than others. I kept telling you, they're not giving us everything. Right? Now we're a year out. And the narrative, how first they were like, oh, there's nothing to see here. Now they're like, look over here. Okay? So I want to start with that. And how I feel like this is something that we should be paying mind to. Okay? Let's start with that. And I have been saying to you back then, we're going to talk about this shit. And I was talking about it in code back then, but we're going to take the Band-Aid off today. You know, nothing against, no shade, no tea, nothing against Bethany Frankel. Okay? I don't know what housewife show she was in, one of them. It's not relevant. But last year, while everybody was seeing shit in the sky, out of all of the people who are believers in sightings, out of all the spiritual people, out of all the religious people, out of all of the people that could have been chosen by spirit or other to communicate said information to the public, she seemed like ill-fitting to me. I feel like they wanted a particular narrative to go in a particular direction in a particular fashion. They wanted to make the conversation less fucking relevant. So how did they do that? Oh, we're talking about Dior bags and Gucci bags, because at the time when real people, whether me or anybody else, was talking about what was happening, whether they were astrologers, whether they were astronomers, whatever their genre was. And that actually hits a lot of different genres, metaphysics, right? None of those people, anyone who tried to speak about any of that, they were having their videos suppressed. Okay? So the code words came in to believe that these code words were protecting the topic. Back then, I was like, this is some bullshit. This is to lighten the conversation and compare it to something that's like a dumb thing, like a pocketbook. Now, I have plenty of good pocketbooks, ladies, don't get me wrong. But it was to trivialize the subject matter. Okay, let's start with that. It was to trivialize the subject matter. And back then, I was saying it. Like, this shit, they pulling a fast one because they're gonna want to say that is nothing, that is nothing. Back then, I was saying to my private group that what they were describing looked like, you know, the angel's wheel, or I forget the exact term. And, you know, it seemed very odd the way the subject matter was being addressed, let's say. Okay? So, with that being said, they kept telling us back then, there's nothing to see here. It's nothing. It's us. We're the ones in the sky testing things. We're looking for missing or sleeper cells or things like that. Right? Nothing to see here. Look away, look away, look away. Right? And in the end, just as I said, that conversation got pushed to the back. The orange one won. And it seemed like from there, everybody forgot about it. Right? We had more pressing issues. We had this maniac coming in. Right? Okay. So now the heat is on. The heat is on. Now that the heat is on, all of a sudden it's like, oh no, there really is something in the sky. And by land and by sea, look in the ocean, look under a rock, look everywhere. Right? Now all of a sudden there's something to see. And I think that we should be paying attention. Did you see that pop? Okay, we should be paying attention. What's good, Candy? To the fact that all of a sudden the narrative is changing. Let me make sure I have just as many of these as I do of those. Okay, one extra. Good. Perfect. Okay. So what am I saying? I'm not saying that we don't have life outside of this plane. Of course we do. We're going to get very deep, okay? But I just want to establish some things first. But if there were a disclosure coming, it's not a mistake that they would use it now, is what I'm trying to fucking say. Apart from that, remember that here in this plane, they don't do shit without a back or another meaning or another plan. Okay? So, if a year ago they didn't want to tell us and they didn't want to admit that there was anything going on, and then now they do, what is different? Well, the patriarchy is about to fall, right? Right? What they're doing is not sustainable, right? And right now, dude is getting a lot of pushback for an affiliation to a particular somebody, right? So let's start with that. And I'm going to try not to get into his whole fucking shenanigans because I don't think that this is relevant right fucking now. I think it is used to assist, but I don't think that that's the relative thing that we should be paying attention to right now. Okay? If you notice, they're trying to do some big things right now. So they don't want us in the realm, okay, of preventing any kind of real action. Okay? And if you've been paying attention, a lot of what they've been trying to do has been failing. Okay? So if that's the case, and they're failing, right? And they're getting backlash everywhere, then what's the end goal here? A switcheroo. Right? So let's talk about something else. We're going to go back in history to get where we are now. So we've been talking about Gemini, Uranus in Gemini, and how every 80-ish years or so, 84 years or so, it has a pattern of causing revolutions, wars, and breakings of systems. Right? Now, the last time that we had Uranus in Gemini, was in World War II. I was watching an astrologer that I watch, Lunatic Astrology or something like that. And she had a remote viewer on. Now, you guys know, I tell you, I remote view all the time. When this shit started, they started seeing stuff in the sky. I told y'all. I'm going to go back to 1942 in a minute. I told y'all there are certain things that are not permitted in this realm because we are not the only species that is reliant upon this planet. And I'm not just talking about the fucking animals. And it's not just the species that are reliant, but it's also the ecosystem. And I don't mean Earth's ecosystem. I mean the universe's ecosystem. It's interwoven. So back then I was saying what we're seeing is an intervention because of a particular conflict that was happening, that is still going on. We're not going to use code names today. Russia and Ukraine. And how they were fighting around a fucking nuclear plant. Remember that? Everybody remember? And I said, the reason why we're seeing shit in the sky is because a long time ago, this is what I said then, a long time ago, back in the Roswell days, when we did the whole Hiroshima Big Bang thing, they fucking showed up and was like, oh, we was just gonna leave you alone because we thought y'all was too primitive and y'all fucking don't know how to treat each other. But now that you're over here blowing shit the fuck up, we're gonna have to come through and regulate. I'm talking about the 40s. I am not talking about Egypt. We could get into all other conversations. We're just talking about the 40s right now. At that point, that is the point when the whole Antarctica thing, the treaty was signed. All these countries made a decision that Antarctica was off limits, yada, 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 yada. Are you following what I'm saying? Historically speaking, it turns out that a lot to do with nuclear testing or facilities has to do with a lot of sightings. And back then, I was saying to y'all, it's like a threat, not to us, but to them about, hey, knock it the fuck off. We told y'all there's certain shit you're not allowed to do. This is one of them. Remember that? Well, oddly enough, that's what they were talking about. And he's a remote viewer, and he basically was also confirming the fact that in the 40s, that's why they came. Okay? And so why do I want to talk about this today? There's a lot of aspects of this I would like to discuss, and I hope that I don't forget any of them. But I really feel like we should pay attention to the fact that they didn't want to talk about shit, and now all of a sudden they do. Okay? There could be several reasons why this is happening right now. I want to explore them with you. The first is will they use this as a false flag so that way they can distract from certain photos? Spirit just said, I was going to say certain subject matter, but Spirit said no photos from those becoming public. Okay, that's one lane. Okay, I feel like Spirit's telling us that the photos exist, but they might not only be the only reason. But let's put that over here. Right? Secondarily, sometime last year, they were talking about an armada of ships coming. So let's say that were true. Let's just say that were true for a second. Then why did we just stop hearing about it at a certain point? Why did that fade away into the background and then now all of a sudden it's being brought back up? But now it's not an armada. Now it's just one big sizable meteor or comet. But then Harvard says, no, it's not a comet. And then supposedly somebody who was at NASA was like, not only is it not a comet, but we think it's hostile. And we think that they're African American presenting and 7 feet tall. Now, I am not saying that there isn't a lot to examine and consider, knowing that as we reconnect to our history, that there's a lot of us who tend to believe of a planet called Nibiru, right? But let me just advise of something. What if they know that we are having this awakening and that we're coming into contact with information about our collective history and how some of those things click in, and how they would like to confuse, because you know that they don't just give you the information, they got to backdoor it, right? But they would like to confuse the information, as well use the narrative to deflect from something that would put off their demise. Now their system is breaking down. And what have they been using to uphold said system? Race, right? Fear of the other. And all of a sudden, just as they fear that might be upon them, all of a sudden they are picking up immigrants, right? And targeting these immigrants, right? So here's a question. You don't find it strange that a year ago they didn't even want to admit that they existed? Now, not only they exist, but they're black, which, listen, don't threaten us with a good time. 7 foot, better stop playing, okay? My point is, they know that there is a huge segment of society right now that is lit up about using their proximity or their power, their perceived power. And with that perceived power comes an insurmountable amount of fear, because it's attached to their guilt. What am I saying? if they would like the support of a particular segment of society to do certain outrageous things, they could just tell them, well, their people are coming for them. And you should be afraid because they're hostile and they're 7 feet tall and they look black and they're about to come and fuck shit up. It's the end of the world. It's the end of the world as we know it, right? Y'all think this shit is weird? Okay. Or even that they would be like, let's say they knew. Let's say they knew that they were 7 feet tall and they were coming and they were hostile. Let's just say. When I promise you, I feel like they still would find a way to lie to try to keep that from us. Okay? Now, why did an iceberg the size of Chicago fall off of Antarctica? And why did Russia have that huge earthquake? Because there's some word on the curb that they might have had a testing site somewhere in that region that might have went wrong, and that it caused particular explosion which restarted the earthquake. And that could have also been like a nuclear power. Okay. We also have a whole genocide happening in a different region. Could it be that they're coming? Fucking absolutely. Would I trust the reasoning that they're giving? Fuck no. Absolutely not. Now, I saw somebody else talking about how they believe, and I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to give you everything that I saw. It's not for me to make up your mind. Right? This one lady was saying that in her estimation, these millionaires are not dying and that they're going into hiding because they really are coming. Okay. And maybe that's true. Because back when I was doing the videos, I kept saying that there was aid coming for us and that we were going to be surprised where it was coming from and that it really could be the angels. Okay. I also said back then that it could be ourselves, meaning like us coming back to the future, like a civilization of ourselves coming back to warn ourselves, right? Galactic federations, all those kind of things that seems so woo-woo, right? And now all of a sudden, it's like they want to confirm these things. Like, no, they're not woo-woo anymore. Okay? So, with that being said, y'all need to pay a lot of attention. Okay? Some of this technology, I said back then something was going to be obsolete. Y'all that are in the Patreon gang, do y'all remember when I said to you that there was a technology that was about to be given to us that would make something completely fucking obsolete and that we didn't need it anymore. And that basically they had it. They were holding it back from us. Okay, that's one of the things that's getting ready to pop off. Okay. We had talked about this almost a year ago. It came up in that same, and I'll post it in the Patreon for y'all. It came up in that same discussion because they were talking about nuclear fusion, which is like a different, right? Or like 0-point power, or being able to create power in a different way. Something that you've been being charged for, that they could have been gave us free, is coming to an end. Right? So were these people playing with certain technology up by the Antarctica, and they caused this piece of ice to fall in, and this is triggering, the reversal of the current and these volcanoes and these earthquakes? Probably yes. Is that why there's something headed to us? That's where I have the problem. Because I think they're already here. Okay? For a lot of yous, I had told y'all in the Patreon gang, go watch Three Body Problem. I know that the first episodes were, but I promise you, it goes into all of this shit. Now here we are again. And I don't think it refers to Nibiru as Nibiru, but it basically is, that's the third body problem. Do you understand? So this is why I'm telling you to watch this shit, because I feel like we're in a situation like that, okay? August is going to be funky as hell. And I think that they're trying to get us to not pay attention to something. But I feel like something's already happening. Okay, it's already happening. And it's like a twofold problem, okay? So I need you to remember that I'm telling you this. It's like a twofold problem. It's like something they're saying is true, but then they're using it for like control or negativeness, okay? And it's like a sleight of hand, okay? They also want to push a particular like religious narrative because they're hoping that it protects them in some way. Okay? They're hoping that it protects them in some way. Like if they can get an army of believers into something that's not real, so that when the real thing happens, people are very reactive. Okay? And so, I don't know, gang. I feel like they're not telling us the truth. And we shouldn't be surprised by that. We shouldn't be surprised by that. I kept saying that something was in, like it hadn't been all the way written yet. And that's why they're trying to shift something. See, hold on, guys. I really think that something else is at play. Okay. I also feel like they want to stop something. They want to stop something from happening. With the public, with the believers. I'm a believer. Okay? So they want to bring people back into the fold. I feel like there's two factions. Okay? I feel like these two factions, one is protective and another not so much. I feel like one has given some sense of power. Maybe this sense of power is somehow through AI. And so maybe AI pushes a narrative that they have been told or programmed to spread. What if the events, but the oranges are off? The origins. Okay, so I was asking ChatGPT something and started talking about the Anunnaki. Since fucking when, yo? I'm not saying that it's not. Yo, something ain't right, yo. Why now? Why now? That doesn't make sense. I feel like somebody's trying to take as much money and run before the collapse of something. Now let's go into the physical realm for a second. An ex-leader from Russia came out and threatened Trump about having some paperwork or some photos. It was like, Israel ain't the only ones who got the photos, basically, is what the leader said. Trump got pissed off, and now he's been backdooring Russia ever since. Now he's going after India for buying Russian oil, and was boasting basically that Russia won't be able to complete their war if they have other problems like trying to fucking keep their economy standing, which was Obama's fucking angle. He was taking the legs out. So why has he switched? Is it because he's now worried about these things coming out? Is this a distraction? I tend to think not. You know, I kept saying to you guys, eat the rich, that there was this energy of this, you know, coming back around, and you know, Gemini, Uranus and Gemini does have like a history of that, because the French Revolution was in there and several other revolutions. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but now I think is it Brazil? Forget what country arrested Bossa Nova. There's very much that same fucking frequency right now. Okay. So it's quite interesting, honestly. It's quite fucking interesting, okay? There it is. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me just get a couple of crystals that I need for this Lionsgate. This one, what's this? Sorry. So anyway, something is very off. Oh, I grabbed Tiger's Eye twice. Okay, so we should be trying to figure out what this is about and why. Because let's just say that the aliens are coming. The aliens are coming, right? Where does this whole, listen, I'm not talking about our internal conversation of Nibiru. Why would they say that unless they're particularly trying to use this to activate a segment of society into a fear? Because you know that in this timeline, baby, that's all they got to say to start some shit. So what's with that? Like, seriously, what is with that? Not saying, because we know that there's a whole origin story, but what I'm saying is, why are they using the origin story that they for so long have said that didn't exist? It doesn't make sense, guys. Let's say it were. Let's say it was. Let's say that all along they knew that this was true. And all along they knew that the Anunnaki could show back up at any time off of planet Nibiru. Let's just go with that. And that the whole time they knew that there were 7-foot Africans that would drop out of the sky if they blew any shit up again like Hiroshima. And then you don't want to give them reparations? But they're coming right now? And you have to, and they're hostile, but you're not writing out checks? That shit sounds crazy. Okay, let's go with that. Is that why you're picking up certain individuals? Are they descendants of those people? The Aztecs disappeared out of nowhere. Were they taken? I'm telling you that they wouldn't tell you the whole truth. So you better start thinking about the discernment of what's really happening. They're not going to tell you the whole truth. If that were the case, we would know it already. So the question is, with what is being said, what's the angle? That's what you need to be asking yourself. What's the angle here? Because there ain't no fucking way. Right? So we have all the Planet of the Apes movies, right? Which I always felt was low-key talking about the oppression they've done against us, but whatever. Right? Now, all of a sudden, this shit isn't important. Now there's no secrets. Now they're just ready to admit it openly. Right? Or is it that they think that if they do away with all of those people, then when they get here, they'll be like, oh, there's none of you survived? Does this shit make any sense to you? I just want you to use some logic, because they're lying about something. They're lying about something. The question is what? What are they lying about? Okay? And I said to you back then, they're not allowed to do something. That's why they do everything but that. Self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction, right? There's limitations. And I feel like Antarctica holds the key. Now, they're also saying that because of this thing that fell off, and they got to see what's under there melting, and that there are species that have been melting, that's also going to be a fucking problem. Right? I said to you guys that decalcifying your third eye is very important. I am going to start taking Oramus, which is basically monatomic gold, which is known to decalcify your third eye. I suggest y'all do it too. It's already up in my TikTok. You can do that. You can head over there and find it, right? You don't have to get it from me, but I do have it posted. Anyway, they are not telling us the truth. And I think we should be very cautious about just buying into any kind of thing. Now let's go and let's talk a little bit about Egyptian times and their stories about the Anunnaki and the I guess it would be considered the Hindu and their discussions about that period and two outer worldly species also fighting amongst themselves, right? The Native Americans referred to it as the Red Kachina returning, or Nibiru. It's not that I don't believe that it's real. I actually do. I'm just very much questioning why they're telling us this in this way. And I do not believe that they're telling us this in this way because they want to tell before they come. It's something else. Okay? Again, I'm going to just say one thing. This has something to do with AB blood. And the people in the population that they have been monitoring and some type of activation. I think a lot of people who may have hybrid in them have been feeling an Akashic records like real clear and real accurate. Because as something comes in proximity, our memory becomes stronger. I know that this may sound crazy, but how much more crazy can it sound other than what the fuck they saying? So why am I saying this? You need to have your discernment game up. You need to have your protection work up. And you need to don't run outside because they're like, look in the sky. It's a bird. Don't run outside. And also don't run, to your nearest organization that you think, trying to say things in a particular way. Fuck it. I wouldn't go running up into churches and being like, I wouldn't do that either. Okay? If the government was telling me, get on this bus because you're going to be safe, I wouldn't do that either. This is you better check in with your discernment shit. I keep telling y'all for like maybe 2 months, the marking of the doors. Okay? This could have something to do with September's eclipses. There's 2 of them coming. Now they're saying that it's not in November, that they're going to be here October 30th. Oh, just in time for Halloween. Listen, this shit, it's almost too perfect. And it's like spirit keeps bringing to me, like, it's not what they're saying, it's why they're saying it. It's not what they're saying, it's why they're saying it. Okay? And let's say they were going to run for the hills because there's something returning, or just because they know that the jig is up. They're trying to extract as much as possible. Watch all stories about water. Watch all stories about earthquakes, locations, where they're happening, tsunamis, mudslides. I so advise you guys to go watch Three Body Problem, and how in that show was talking about, there was one particular, and I can't, it's too big of a subject matter for me to like try to break it down, but there was one particular planet, because it has to do with portals. It was one particular planet that once it would come into contact with said Nibiru or the third body, that things would happen rapidly. And one of the scenes, one of the things that would happen is that they would turn to stone or to ash or to salt. Okay? Through heat, being burnt up. I'm trying to tell you, I'm not saying that we're going to get burnt up, okay? But what I'm saying is that what we're seeing has something to do with the proximity to something, but they don't want to tell us that. They want to use this time to extract something, because they figure if they say, well, you know, it's a whole bunch of giant black people coming, that, you know, it'll put off a transfer of power. Now, I don't know if these are opposite camps. I don't know if this is the same camp. I don't know how it works. All I know is what Spirit is saying, that we're not to believe it. At least not the reasoning why they're saying. Okay? It's like they want to control the narrative of what we see, or how we respond to what we see, or what we think it is. And Spirit's telling you to avoid that and tap into your soul matrix, that you will know what it is. Okay? So I'm going to leave that there. I just wanted to come on and discuss that a little bit with y'all. The one thing I want to add, even in the ATRs, okay? And if you're on TikTok, you know what I'm saying. There have been people in all different types of religions fleecing people, not doing the right thing, leading people to only one mindset, to saying that there's only one way, to blocking people's ascension, to blocking the frequency of love and unity. Those people presently are getting their ass whooped energetically. If you're a bully, if you're a fuck ass person, they're getting it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Some of them are going to play innocent. Some of them are going to try to link up with other people in the same scenario to protect. And I'm going to say this shit, I don't give a fuck who don't like it. I'm noticing a division within the ATRs. And it's not about like Ifa versus Lukumi versus, even though there's a little bit of that, right? It's not that. It's like who has right to that, or who does it better between the Latinos and Black community. And I'm telling y'all need to knock it the fuck off. Why? Because both of us, both communities, endured this thing together, and that's how we survived it. It belongs to both of us. It's too integrated to separate. And secondarily, your ability and desire to close off your mind to any other system of enlightenment. I'm going to give you an example. You went to school, you didn't just learn math, you learned English and social studies and science. It would have been fucking absurd of you to say, well, I know science, therefore I don't need math. So when I hear people in the ATRs talking about how, this is my fucking personal opinion, you come for me if you want, but you better have receipts. How tarot is a European thing, and then you shouldn't use tarot if you're in the ATRs. I'm going to say something. Tarot is largely based on astrology, which is largely based on astronomy. Because you do not understand astrology, right? It's like saying, well, I'm a scientist, so I don't need to know how to read English. It's two separate systems, does not mean that they're both not divine truths, that they're both not tools. Don't be fucking ignorant. And if we're going to talk about, you know, our spiritual courts or our commission of spirits, and if you are somebody who's an espiritismo or a spiritist, you'll be being very, especially if you are indigenous, African American, or any of those kind of diaspora, part of the diaspora. If you're saying that you can't have a Francisca or a Big Mama or a Lama Dama and also have a gypsy in your court who will read the fuck out of some cards. So because what? You don't use that part? Because I've been seeing a lot of young priestesses and priests talking about this shit. And I want to tell you, I have been in this religion for a very long time. And there are a lot of fucking elders that read with tarot and read with playing cards and a lot of other divination tools that don't have nothing to do with the ATRs. What's good, Rebecca? We can't just be making fucking rules up as we go along. Okay? Or to say that Reiki is irrelevant when the Hindu have been using it for thousands of years. We need to stop this shit. Because you don't know who walks with what. God. Okay. You also have non-initiates, throwing rocks at initiates throwing at each other. Which is why I always have tried, if you notice, I teach you guys like more spiritism and how to be in balance. And I don't go into all of that because I feel like that's not on message and it's not on mission. My mission is not to be judging other people, and my mission is to help as many of you balance your own individual energies. Okay. And I'm going to show you the methods that I have worked with that have helped me and help you explore your courts. Anybody who's telling you, okay, that there's only one way to do something is fucking lying. And I don't care what they say. If you see spiritists, this is my personal opinion, okay? If you see a group of spiritists fighting amongst each other, I block them both. Because one may be doing it out of ego and the other one's doing it for notoriety. Now, I'm also seeing people jumping on the bandwagon of attacking because they think they're doing 2 and 3 lives a day trying to get followers. You don't see me do that. Because I want to teach you guys how to balance your own energy, how to fucking know when something ain't right, what you should do, how you should meditate, how you should manifest. I almost low-key, just like I said to you guys about this whole thing, why they saying it now? Why, as soon as we're in the public eye and we're starting to get more people to return to their roots, now they want to start fighting amongst each other. That too is part of it, because they want you, okay, to be like, oh, you see, look how they fight. My opinion. Okay. I really would like to see more unity. I really would like to see less fighting. I really would like to see more humility. I really would like to see, more of a communal energy. And I really would like to see us go back to a healing modality. Sometimes I get on myself, right? Like, am I charging too much? But then I look and I'm like, not like, you're a lot cheaper than most people in this genre. Right? Especially when I know that what I do is like for real. You know what I mean? But I be seeing crazy stuff, yo. And I feel like this has something to do with everything that's about to happen. It's like we have to get right, but we have to get right for a different reason, not for the reason that they're telling us. Yeah, more service to others mindedness. Yeah, I just want to I don't know, man. I'm going to always try to be here in this capacity in support of our community. And try to teach as much as I can, so that if ever that I know that I left y'all with something. You know, thank you, Project Execute. She said definitely not charging too much. I really, you know, should the internet ever go down or anything like that, I want to know that I really taught y'all something. It makes me a little emotional because I'm getting really frustrated with what I'm seeing online. And I feel like we have very serious times ahead, and we need to pay attention to who we're listening to. But as the title of this video says, is remote viewing. When we grow together, it multiplies all of our energy. Yeah. I'm leaving a legacy. Thank you, Rose. But I feel like we need to focus, yo. This shit is like, we need to focus, and they're gonna try to confuse us. So that's why I did this live about this remote viewing, to remind y'all what Spirit told us. That they're not allowed to do certain things. And they've been trying to do these things against humanity, which is why they are in our proximity, and they're fucking lying to us right now. And they're using a narrative that we're exploring about our genealogy to fuck us, have us look away. Okay, your energy transfers beyond the energy internet, and I look forward to always being connected with our community. Absolutely, Ashe. Couldn't agree more. United we stand. Should we be well equipped together? And you know, I got a kind of a and hopefully it doesn't happen, but their Spirit kind of showed me that there might be, I might have to travel up to the Northeast, maybe before the end of the year or in the spring. If that happens, I will do a meet and greet for the tri-state. If that happens. Discernment is the key, guys, okay? Discernment is the key. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go have lunch, but for those of you who's doing the Lionsgate, I will send out last instructions tomorrow, okay? All right, guys, I'm wishing you all light and love and blessings on blessings. Bye.